can really appreciate what you just said. That said, look, maybe you got to step back a little bit because she's got a wealth of knowledge that could, frankly, change your family's life, the trajectory of your business, and also the 50 or so employees that you might have, their lives as well. So if they already think everything is good, how much better it could be with I think the value acceleration framework. Hey, everybody, and welcome back to the Exit Is Now podcast with me, your host, Scott Snider, hanging out with two, I would say, like newer friends. Like me and Michelle have known each other, but I've gotten to know her husband, Josh, over the last couple of years. I met you at a chapter launch, I think, right? In Boston? Is that where we met?
It was actually the summit.
The summit? Oh, you did. You asked them, but in Marco Island, Florida. So really cool to bring them together. I asked them to come on the show because they own a 110-year-old fourth generation?
Fourth generation, that is correct.
Fourth generation family business. So this year I've made, we're only about 1 or 2 episodes into season 3. So this year I've made a really deliberate effort to bring more business owners onto the show. So we'll get into our unique dynamic here. But Josh, why don't we start with, what your business does, what's it look like, and how's it expanded over the last 110 years?
Sure. Thanks so much. Scott, thanks so much for having us. We're of course super excited to be here. But Fuller's been a name in auto repair since 1914, my great-grandfather. So back when Willis was working on horse and buggies, the 1908, the Model T actually came out, and then he kind of transitioned over to the Model T and started on the ignition wiring. Then my grandfather got into the business during the war effort, would work on cars at night, and then my father eventually got into the business as well. True entrepreneurial form. Over the years, everybody just kind of evolved and added their own stamp to the business. So from mechanical repair to collision repair to towing to aftermarket parts. Then my other brother got involved. Then my second brother got involved. Everything from car washes to used car lots to OEM dealerships.
So very auto-centric, though, right? Never kind of moving too far away from core business, would you say?
Not really. No. Yeah. If it's got 4 tires and an engine, we're about it. So it's,
yeah. I think that's cool. We were hanging out yesterday a little bit as we were having dinner on going on the bus, and you were giving me a little crap for being a Ford guy, but it sounds like great grandfather was a Model T guy at first. Maybe not by choice, but given there were so many of them out there, you guys fixing them up.
Yeah, we just like to diversify, much like with our business dealings. Again, if it's four tires and an engine, we're about it. Funny thing, even to the point of NASCAR, right?
Yeah.
Our family's been involved in NASCAR in the 70s and 80s, and my dad would always sponsor some of the NASCAR cars that we were doing, Westboro Speedway, Thompson Speedway. So I actually grew up going to Martinsville, going to Richmond, and then I remember when Loudon was built in New Hampshire. And it was man. It's been absolutely crazy. To the point where we are today, my sister is involved with us, as well as my brother runs mechanical. And then we've had our first acquisition under the Fuller Collision Group this year, as well as really kind of pushing the collision repair, which is a passion of mine, as well as entrepreneurial growth. Yeah. On the entrepreneurial side, we've established a advanced driver systems calibration facility. Okay. So we started doing that about 4 years ago as we noticed the technology in these cars was just getting absolutely crazy, and this is not going away, and so. We work with about 70 other locations, other body shops in our area, where we perform calibrations for them based on what was done to the vehicle. It's super cool. I mean, the stuff that we're seeing is just really unheard of.
When did that idea spark? Like, how long has that particular system been around in your business?
It's really started. Advanced driver assistance systems really have been on the vehicles, I would say, all the way back. You think of anti-lock brakes, right?
Yeah, sure.
Or, power steering. So as the vehicle evolved, so is this technology. I would say for the most part, probably 5 or 6 years ago is when you started seeing front-facing cameras, blind spot monitors, adaptive cruise control. And so now it's like when you're replacing bumpers or repairing certain aspects of the car, the manufacturer says, hey, if you're really messing with the infrastructure and engineering of the car, these things have to be recalibrated. And we saw that more and more and more. So it's super exciting and a very cool aspect to where we are right now and today.
So, as like I always think this is like super fascinating because I'm certainly not in a fourth generation family business, 110 years history. I think that's just like wildly incredible. But I would say the first entrepreneur in my family was also my great grandfather, E.J. Snider. E.J. Snider was a farmer in Columbus, Ohio, so like 2 hours south of where we're at today. And his claim to fame is he was the guy that like quite literally shoved money in mattresses because he didn't believe in banks. But during the Depression, right, during the Depression, he had a bunch of cash. So he came up to Cleveland, which was more at the time, obviously urban than, central Ohio, and bought a bunch of land up, and he became a real estate developer. But then kind of suddenly passed away, and exit planning that certainly we know about. He kind of, everything fell into my grandpa's lap and I guess that would have been my great uncle Bill, and they started Snider Family Real Estate. And what I think is cool, because I don't think growing a 110-year-old business, Josh, is easy by any means, especially with family. It sounds like family's all around you. But what happened in the Richard Snider, so my grandfather, what happened in the Richard Snider version is the two brothers just kept butting heads. So they rolled out residential development and commercial development. Grandpa took commercial development, and his brother took residential development. And I didn't know my great uncle Bill all that much, but it was like real hard for the family. And I could only imagine how hard it is for you guys to just keep everybody kind of in unison, right, through 4 generations. You said your sister and brother are both in the business, active today.
Yes. Yeah.
And how is that relationship in and out of the business?
So we consider ourselves, we're, whether you look at us as it's a family business or it's really kind of a business family. Is how we operate.
Yeah.
And so, again, there's ups, there's downs, but at the end of the day, we kind of look at the organization and the brand as a whole as the driving force, because, we continue to be good to people and provide value, to our customers. And that's really what drives us. And
go ahead. Sorry.
The biggest thing I think that we're seeing now is just the growth, right? The growth in people, the growth in infrastructure. That's what I really enjoy is helping people grow and building that culture.
So people centric. So one of the questions we have to ask a 110-year-old business, right, is like, what is the success factors for 110 years, right? Like it's pretty incredible. What I'm hearing though, you talk about just kind of in that kind of opening is people centric, growth centric, values and customers. Is that fair to say?
100%. And
do you think that was kind of set the foundation with great grandpa all the way through your generation?
All the way through. I mean, it was a big, back in the day, community was everything, right?
Yeah.
So, I mean, my grandfather literally had a tow truck and would provide all the towing in town. And so when a police cruiser would get into an accident, he would actually lend the police department his car for them to use.
Wow, really?
So
do you have the good relationship with the police today, or what? Yeah,
we do.
I was going to say, right? You're like, hey, my grandfather towed your car 110 years ago.
We've been towing 24 hours a day since 1946 with the police contracts and state contracts. We've recently, back in 2016, gave that up. Actually, funny story is when I brought Michelle up from New Jersey.
Yeah.
And I was operating after graduating Bentley College.
Yeah.
I went to work for Liberty Mutual for 2 years. It wasn't enough for me, right? Being stuck in a cubicle.
Right. Yeah.
Wasn't going to fly. So I came back to work in the family business, and one of the first things that we did was I operated the towing company. So 24 hours a day, I'd be out at night. Michelle would be like super scared, like, it's so dangerous. Cause she used to come in the tow trucks in the flatbed with me. I thought it was cool. Going towing in accidents, and to me it felt great because we were able to help somebody in need that was just in an accident. Help them through the insurance company process, put the claim in, fix their car, really just start to finish.
Yeah, I saw that on your website too. I think that is unique because I think we've all been in car accidents at least once in our life, but it's usually not the same guy fixing my car that towed my car, right? There's two totally separate things, at least in my experiences, right? So when I was looking at your business just from the way you guys have placed it online, I can move around like you call it like a campus, right? Is that your touch on the business? Like you're calling it like for this more formalized campus feel where I could. It is like a campus. You even have like a little map on your website where I can say, okay, I'm going to go here. My car's going to get towed there by the same guy that's kind of the same company at least that's fixing it, and I can also rent my car over here. And so, because the other thing I think about when you get in an accident, you need collision repair is comforting, where like it's like you don't need any more hassles. For a lot of people, they might be a one-car family, so it's like a big deal.
Yeah.
And especially today, right? Like I think I have actually several friends that now all work from home, and so they just literally were like, well, we don't need two cars because we're always at home, so we'll go down to one. But if that one car gets in an accident and needs repair, having everything at one place, I think it's actually a pretty brilliant idea. One thing you said that I want to touch on, I want to bring Michelle into the conversation too, is me and you could probably go down a rabbit hole, by the way, right? Like our audience is probably sitting on their seat like, oh God, Scott's just going to go, here we go. But I think there's one thing that for me personally as owner to owner that my dad has challenged me with, and I challenged him back and didn't necessarily do it, right? So you said you left, and did you work? So you worked in the family business, I would assume, like as a kid, right?
No, actually, I didn't.
So you didn't.
I very much like you. I was entrepreneurial.
Okay.
I always had something going on. My father taught me at a young age a very good work ethic.
Yeah.
And I realized that if I was going to earn trust and earn responsibility, I had to go out and do it. So whether it be retail, landscaping, even at 6 years old, it would be 6 inches of snow on the ground, and I'd be at my best friend's house in the morning. Let's go.
Yeah, shovel some driveways for $10.
Some driveways.
So did Dad kind of guide you into college, or was that kind of a joint effort? Dad wasn't saying, "Hey, just join the family business."
No, absolutely. Again, I'm very, very blessed with my two parents to provide the infrastructure and really kind of a safe space to make the decisions that were going to be good for me personally and good for our family. So we was always kind of given the free reign of doing what's going to be best for you. Make your own path, if you will.
And then what drew you back into and how did you start? So I was like, I can go down a rabbit hole here. So I have a lot of friends. So I have a lot of friends that are in long-term businesses, maybe not 100 years, but maybe call it like 50 or 60, that were started by their grandfathers. And but they've worked their way up through that business, right? They were a machinist, then they were the plant manager, then they were a general manager, now they're the vice president. So they've had this big, long journey. When you came back into the business after leaving, I think you said Liberty Mutual, what was the role that you first took on? Was it a business role, or were you out fixing cars?
The first role was actually office. Learning, I'm a numbers guy. I'm a finance guy.
Yep, okay.
So the first thing I did was create an infrastructure, actually, believe it or not, in Excel of really tracking the business of like
Total owner.
I'm looking at the P&L, and that was one of the great things at Liberty Mutual is like you learn to run businesses by an internal blue book and by numbers and by financials. And so that's what I dug into is understanding the financials of the business. But then towing, washing cars, understanding the process. And then, I started to get hands-on, again, towing cars at night. And I started, washing cars. And I started getting hands-on the technical side. But then, obviously, there were more things that needed to be done. Mm-hmm. So as we continue to grow, it's very much like our rest of our family. I focus on optimization versus maximization, right?
Okay, yeah.
Some might even say, whether you're looking to maximize something or optimize it, we're continuously looking to optimize, the customer experience, optimize the repair process, and that's what it really kind of got into.
Yeah, no, I think it's a really, really cool story. So let's bring in Michelle a little bit too, because I think your world, I'd like to think your world kind of changed a few years ago when your wife became a certified exit planning advisor. And I just think I've always thought, once you introduced me to him and you were talking to me about your husband, and to have this, like somebody that you love and trust and so close with, also be this kind of cool outside advisor that can help you not only what we call today, Josh, is not just have a company that is 110 years successful year over year, but has like long-term significance, right? That focuses on driving value into the business, not just income. and aligning the business owner's business, personal, and financial goals. And as Michelle became a CEPA and started to obviously expand her knowledge in that space, she took that knowledge into the family business and now is, I think, transitioning over there almost like full time to be that kind of guide and that kind of advisor to you. So how did that, so you become a CEPA, I would assume, Michelle, and you go, okay, this is really cool stuff, and I could see like direct application to our family business. Can you just talk about, as you maybe were going through that program, what were like the aha moments? Like what did that look like for you?
Yeah, no, thanks, Scott, and thank you for having us.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
I think I mentioned on my last podcast with you all, like I listen to this, so it's really cool to be speaking on it too.
You said you listen while you run, right?
I listen while I run.
Cool.
Yes, we're all about optimization. So to be here in the studio is really kind of really, really incredible. So thank you.
Yeah, of course.
So I think for me, I earned my CEPA in March of last year, and was preparing for the coursework ahead of time. So I was reading Walking in Destiny, and we're on vacation. I'm reading it, and I finish it, and even before that, I'm like, Josh, what's your EBITDA?
Does he know the answer or no?
No.
Yeah.
And he's like,
Yeah. But honestly, that's very like normal for an owner, right?
yeah. I'm like, what's your EBITDA? Like, are you a C Corp or are you an S Corp? And why? And I'm literally pummeling the poor guy with all these questions, and he's kind of like, why are you asking me this? And why are you asking me this on vacation?
Yeah.
And I'm like, well, I'm reading this book, and it's like, there's so many awesome takeaways for advisors that, work with business owners, but like for business owners themselves. Like, I really think you should read this. So it kind of just gave me this look like, I don't have time to read a book. But eventually ended up reading it. And then you'll fast forward, I'm in my course, in the CEPA course, and it's virtual, obviously. So I'm at home in my office. And like, Josh, today I'm learning about ESOPs. Like, haven't you talked about ESOPs? Maybe you should come sit next to me and watch this.
Wow.
And so he literally did for a few minutes. He was like, wow, this is really awesome. Mm-hmm. So we're going through the program. I'm learning about value growth advisors. I then go to the summit. Mm-hmm. And so I'm at the summit. I literally can't get enough of all the awesome breakouts and the content. And I go to the Cultivate Advisors breakout.
Right.
And so here is my introduction to a value growth advisor. I read about it in the book, but now, I get a front row seat to it. And, I get to know those folks, and I go home and I'm like, Josh, you need to hire a value growth advisor. And he's like, what are you talking about? Like, I don't have time to work with a value growth advisor. Yeah. And I'm like, I really think you should hear these guys out.
Right.
And so connect him with Cultivate. And a few months later, we sign on, and now we're working with Cultivate Advisors on the value growth side. So, for 20 plus years, I've worked with financial advisors, literally in one way, shape, or form, whether on the wealth management side or on the asset management side. Then I earn a CEPA, I learn what a value growth advisor is. I totally get ingratiated in that world. I'm like, wait a second, like I'm married into a family business. Yeah. I see this application on the financial side. I see this on the business side. And, the whole kind of three legs of the stool, business, personal, financial, was like, wait a second, like this is almost like nirvana for me. I'm seeing this literally happen and transpire right in front of me. So it's been really awesome to apply everything that I've learned through CEPA and through value growth, frankly, with Cultivate, and really help see that through with Fuller's.
So as Joshy introduced this all to you, like it's always interesting to have an owner on the show, right? Because I'd like to think that we start to get the wheels turning, but be as honest as you want to be. What was that experience like for you? So, she starts talking to you and teaching you. You might sit next to her and watch the ESOP stuff. Like, was it overwhelming? What was like your initial feeling when you started getting introduced to this?
No, it was actually great because it really opened my eyes. You talking about value, building value, right? Yeah. And at the end of the day, you're a business owner. So what drives you, right? Mm-hmm. What is your goal? What is your freedom point? What are you really working towards? So I was able to quickly identify, like, hey, you know what? I've spent like 20 years, doing this and building this. What are we really doing it for? Mm-hmm. And do I see myself as a lifestyle owner, or do I see myself as a builder and creator? Yeah. Mm-hmm. So when you talk about goals, again, it gets down to people. It gets down to building the process. and having, we're fortunate enough where our executive team is about my age or younger.
Yeah.
But a lot of our 10-year people, we've seen them, graduate high school, buy their first house, get married, have their first child.
Yeah.
And so it's like, wherever our people are, we'd like to meet them at and say, all right, well, whether we're helping invest for, your 401k or, saving for a child or saving for college education. It's just been great to continuously grow as a family.
That's super cool. So I need to take a quick break. So when we come back, I want to dive into the value acceleration process, right? And
100%.
And see how that is starting to take shape, perhaps, in your company. So give me a quick couple minutes, and we'll be right back.
Are you a business owner seeking to unlock the true potential of your enterprise? Look no further than the second edition of Christopher Snider's revolutionary book, Walking to Destiny: 11 Actions an Owner Must Take to Rapidly Grow Value and Unlock Wealth. In this updated edition, Snider presents proven strategies for maximizing your company's value and accelerating growth. Whether you're aiming to sell or simply want to ensure long-term success, this book offers a blueprint for building a thriving, self-sustaining business. Walking to Destiny isn't just another book, it's a game changer, backed by Snider's own experience as a successful business owner and as a CEPA. This book bridges the gap between business owners and advisors, guiding you towards financial freedom. But don't just take our word for it. Hear from those whose lives have been transformed by its insights. One satisfied reader raves, "The best guide for transitioning out of privately owned companies. I recommend it to all business owners and advisors." Another praises it on its focus for maximizing business value, calling it their, quote, principal tool for educating owners. Ready to take control of your business's destiny? Visit walkingtodestiny.com now and use code EXITISNOW to claim your free copy of Walking to Destiny: 11 Actions an Owner Must Take to Rapidly Grow Value and Unlock Wealth. Don't wait for the perfect moment. Make the moment perfect by seizing this opportunity today.
Hey there, business owners. Are you ready for a game-changing opportunity? Introducing the 2023 National State of Owner Readiness Report. Over the past decade, this groundbreaking research has reshaped how we view business ownership and exit planning. This report isn't just another study, it's a deep dive into the evolution of business ownership. It shines a spotlight on the crucial intersection of business attractiveness and owner readiness, revealing the undeniable impact of preparation on achieving successful transitions. With younger generations taking the reins, exit planning is taking on a whole new perspective. Education and awareness about preparing for the future have never been more crucial, and with financial readiness leading the charge, there's a clear opportunity for growth and learning. But here's the kicker. The report shows a surge in exit planning education and understanding, yet many still lack formal transition teams, highlighting the essential role of comprehensive support. So who's got your back? Trusted advisors have evolved from CPAs to financial advisors, making a decade of significant change in support networks. Ready to take the next step towards a successful exit? Dive into the Exit Planning Institute's 2023 National State of Owner Readiness Report and start shaping your legacy today. The future is knocking. Are you ready to answer? Discover your readiness level at 2023ownerreadiness.com and take the first step towards a successful and significant exit.
Hey everybody, and welcome back to the Exit Is Now podcast. So going down this 110-year journey, which I think over just like the last 2 years of this 110-year journey, we've kind of refocused to this value acceleration methodology. And before the break, we were introducing Michelle as a certified exit planning advisor that is now advising her husband in the family business on what it takes to drive more significance, is what I would say, into a company. What's interesting, Michelle, about you is that you've spent basically a 20-year career in big kind of corporate America.
Yes.
And I think it's really cool that you've taken this kind of like entrepreneurial leap into now family business, which you and I were laughing the other night is quite a bit different than corporate America. So talk to me about why you have had a very successful career, and that's how we met, right? As partners with in our community. So tell me about that transition and how you're bringing some of that knowledge into the family business.
Yeah, sure. So, very recent decision. So just a few weeks ago, I did decide to leave corporate America, and take, as you mentioned, the 20 years in corporate and potentially apply it here in our family business. And so I thought to myself, gosh, I've spent all this time building growth businesses for trillion-dollar asset management companies. Why wouldn't I take an opportunity to leverage my CEPA and my corporate business experience and apply that to our family and help Josh and his endeavors? We're in Fuller Collision Group is in growth mode right now.
It sounds like it. Yeah.
We're acquiring more shops. We are building our ADAS calibration business, and I really wanted to help be a part of that. And so the first step to that, there's a lot of different things I've been doing even in just the 3 weeks, but the first step was really to align those three legs of the stool for us. So I really wanted to make sure that we met with our financial advisor. Obviously, we have a little bit of different cash flow at this point, but in addition, I'm almost coaching our advisory team through the CEPA process to say, okay, we need to get in a room, and it needs to be our advisor, our lawyer, our accountant, and our value growth advisor, and this meeting is happening in 2 weeks, and we need to all sit around the table and discuss all of our needs through value acceleration, frankly. And that is obviously anything we need from a risk off standpoint, from the insurance side of things, for example. What do we need from a buy-sell arrangement? Do we need updating there? What do we need from a state perspective? Can our value growth advisor really help to educate the other advisors in the room about where we're going and what we need to get there? And so all of this was so critical, and it's funny because I've been teaching other financial advisors about this for so long, and now I literally get to sit there as a CEPA, but also as an owner, and that's a really unique perspective. So super excited for that meeting.
Well, I think it's almost like three perspectives too, right? So you have that obviously corporate mentality, which I think is what we were talking about yesterday. It's actually, I think like my dad has a little bit of that too, and I think it complements me because I'm wild entrepreneur and Dad's a little bit more structured.
Right.
So I think that's one of the reasons that we combine well. But you're also like advisor-esque, right? And so you have that background, and then now and an owner. So this is like very unique experience. And I can tell you, Josh, what I was thinking about listening to you guys kind of just talk about it off the air. It's a very similar relationship that me and my dad have, because I think I probably sway your way in terms of being an owner and being kind of an entrepreneur. I think you said yesterday, like Josh is the kind of guy that goes like shiny things, and there's like, look at this, look at this, look at this. And Dad has always been the person that has framed me through the value acceleration methodology lens, right? So talk to me about bringing the advisors together. So assuming that would be of the first time for the family, having them all in one room, trying to speak a common language, and this is a 110-year business, but now something brand new.
Absolutely brand new. Ironically, all three of them are in the same physical building.
Oh, makes it easy, right?
So that makes it really easy. Our value growth advisor through Cultivate is Greg Maddox. Actually, I think he was a guest here a few weeks ago.
Yes, yeah.
So he's going to kind of zoom in virtually, but it'll be really exciting to see that. And then, you talked a little bit about bringing more structure to the organization. And I think that's, more of an art than a science. I have a lot of ideas. I have a lot of ways I think things should and could be done, but I have to really tread lightly as I, kind of infiltrate myself into the business. Oftentimes I'm like, Josh, is this okay to do, or is that okay to do? And we were having a laugh last night because, I was emailing or getting ready to email someone on a Sunday, and, Josh was like, you can't do that.
The different worlds, right? So for anybody that's listening, right, that is maybe have this kind of similar relationship, what I thought was funny in that as well is that not only was she emailing somebody on a Sunday and you're like, don't do that, right? She also, tell us about the help desk story.
So when she obviously when she gave up her work laptop, she had a personal laptop. Yeah. And so, we're going, we're binging and bonging, going back and forth on certain stuff. And, she's working on stuff and she runs into an issue. So she calls me and she's like, what's the number to the help desk?
It's just,
I'm like,
so
what?
funny.
I'm like, we don't have a help desk.
I'm like, IT support? I'm like, yeah, we've got a managed company to manage services that takes care of things, but it was just, it's a different mindset, obviously.
It is.
So, you bring up an interesting point, right? So you talk about your relationship with you and your dad.
Sure.
Well, now you get a relationship with, me and my wife. Yeah. Right. And so, what person doesn't want help from their wife telling them what to do and how to do it. You know,
Yeah, right.
Funny.
but honestly, you know, you got to look at it. You can look at it one of two ways, right? You know, I think historically, a lot of people and a lot of men with very ego driven would look at it from a negative aspect. Like, this is what I know. This is what I've been doing. You know, we've been in business. You know, we know how to do it. Whereas I kind of flipped. I had that mindset for about 5 seconds, and then I really look at it. Sorry, how beneficial is this to our family, and how beneficial is it to our business to continue, what's been 4 generations, to have this asset, to have not only that, but to have somebody that has just a dying passion to contribute to the business when, she really never grew up in it. And so from that aspect, I feel very fortunate, but, there's a lot of obviously back and forth where, it's helping to educate her and properly set her mindset.
When it comes to help desk.
Well, what to do, what not to do, and then it just
No, I think it's a wildly beneficial, and like I said, I think it's very similar listening to you guys talk about it that I do have with my dad, right? Because there's a point in, I don't know if you felt like this with your dad or the other family members that might have coached you through your last 20 years or so in your family business, but there's a point too where like, I don't want to be dad's son. Like, you don't need to tell me what to do. I can go do it. But at the same time, I can really appreciate what you just said that said, look, maybe you got to step back a little bit because she's got a wealth of knowledge that could frankly change your family's life, the trajectory of your business, and also the 50 or so employees that you might have, their lives as well. So if they already think everything is good, how much better it could be with I think the value acceleration framework. As this all starts to take place, though, there's one thing that we learn in the CEPA program that is called a wow curve, right? So it's this point where you start at a high, right? You have somebody like Michelle come in, she introduces like a bunch of cool stuff, the light bulbs start to go off, and you're like, oh man, like value, growth, like I can see this. And I want to talk to you about the wow curve, though it's a bit perhaps off script, because at some point, typically, we see in an owner's life where they go, wow, there's all this cool stuff. And then there's like a bunch of other stuff that you have to do. I would assume your life is already busy. So now you're going to turn to Michelle and say, so now I got to align business, personal, and financial goals. Like, I'm trying to expand my business. I got all these employees. You get calling people on Sunday, so I got to come in on Monday and deal with that. And there's a point that we see in an owner's life where they are inside the value acceleration methodology and they start to come down to the bottom, and that is at their lowest, where they're like, man, I don't know if I should be doing this. And then as you start to work through maybe the first couple 90-day sprints, you see some progress, and you start to work your way back up the wow curve to your high point of energy. And you're probably just somewhere at the start of this. I think we'll have to have you on the show like in another year to see what point of the wow curve he's on. Yeah. But I think it's unique because you might not ever get to the bottom, because what you're talking about, and I think it's interesting for our CEPA audience that is listening, you're kind of playing this role as almost like a fractional CVO, like a fractional chief value officer, where you're kind of conducting and quarterbacking and relationship managing, bringing all these people together, which I think would be wildly beneficial for you, because you don't have to orchestrate that.
Right.
So how is that, has it been, like, so you brought in Cultivate, but like your other advisors that I'm assuming you probably have an attorney, you might have had a financial advisor, but now they're coming into like a new team in a new light. Right. What has that been like for you, kind of coaching that role and bringing everybody together?
Yeah, I mean, I think it's with the advisors themselves have to be on the same page in order to really deliver on true value creation, and helping educate all of them, our lawyer, our accountant, and our financial advisor separately, but then bringing them all together, I think, is a whole nother realm of trajectory for us. So that's definitely been eye-opening, and I'll definitely have more to report after that meeting happens.
Yeah, right.
But even just from the Cultivate side and working on the value growth piece of things, right? We're full blown in the prepare gate. We're working through so many of the 4 intangible capitals right now. So a lot of that is, what are we doing from a social capital perspective? What are we doing from a customer capital perspective? What are we doing from a structural capital perspective? all that sort of stuff is really important. And so if we're going Fuller's Collision Group, we have to build a new website, we have to build a new brand, we have to build a new logo, we have to build a new social media strategy. Like that's some of the things I'm spearheading. With 50 employees, we need dedicated HR. We need to, we need to evolve a little bit more of that.
Oh, man.
Our
Yeah,
CFO can't
totally.
be doing HR too,
Yeah.
right? So it's putting those structures in place. Bringing our SOPs onto a virtual platform versus like on a piece of paper somewhere,
Yeah,
right? Like
totally.
it's really just helping scale the business a little bit more, but also recognizing that it was built over the last 110 years through a platform of working hard and being good to people and never losing sight of that as our underlying driver of success. So it's definitely been an interesting thing to juggle. It's only been 3 weeks,
Yeah.
but I think we're definitely on the road to a lot of really good success.
So I laugh with the HR thing too, because that's like at the same. We have to go out for like another beer, man, because we have to be like in terms of growing our businesses, we have to be at the similar point, right? Because we're hitting like our 40th employee. We're moving into this 16,000 square foot building, and it's like way more complex. Like I feel like I'm definitely moving into your world, right? Where you need like even at Exit Planning Institute, we have improvements to do, right, in terms of structural capital, human capital, customer capital, and so on. But so for you, Josh, like when you go through, I would assume, so did he do like an assessment, like a triggering event engagement, a health report at Cultivate or something like that?
He absolutely did.
Okay.
Yep, we did. We definitely did all of that, and they were fantastic. Kind of go through that, and it was important, not only to understand the value of the business,
Yes.
but to really have Josh start thinking about what life looks like, after
After the business?
Yeah, if there is ever an after the business, right?
Sure.
But even just having him contemplate that, right?
Yeah.
And I think a lot of people think exit means selling, and it does not mean that. There's so many different ways to exit. So it was more around the lines of getting Josh, what is your freedom point, Josh? And let's think about what your freedom point is. And, what does it mean to decentralize you from the business? And these are all things that, frankly, at the age of 45, we hadn't really thought about.
Of course,
but
right.
it's important to think about.
Right, because I mean, it's like fairly young still, where you're like,
Yeah.
wait a second, I can decentralize myself from the business and have room for like I'm assuming you have other passions in life, right? But when I'm interested to ask you, Josh, when you get this health report, so I've done Cultivate's health report too in our business. What was that feeling like? So in our world, we teach to kind of walk lightly, because you're taking a guy that's a part of a 110-year-old business who's clearly pretty successful. And when you take a report like that, it could be kind of a slap in the face sometimes, because they're saying, hey, Josh, you guys are really successful, but your baby's ugly. And so as an owner, how's that feel? Do you remember that point? I mean, it was recent. So do you remember like what you were feeling when you went through that?
Yeah, 100%. I mean, just looking at the assessment and coming back is, I'm pretty level-headed. So, if I know there's an area of opportunity, then I'll be the first one to say, you know what? Yeah, we suck. Like,
Fair.
okay, like we've got things to do. Like, and what really helped was just adding the infrastructure to it, and then dealing with Cultivate. I first went into it, and granted, I think it was 3 to 6, the first 3 to 6 months, I'm like, what am I doing? Seriously, I'm just, wasting a bunch of money, and I've got, these people that have no idea about my business. They know what what do they know? And then I'm really looking at it, and I'm like, you know what? And then I reread Walking to Destiny, and I'm like, you know what? This makes sense. This is ultimately one of the best. Saying goes, one of the best strategic plans is, what is the exit plan, right?
Yeah.
And really understanding that you're really got to get that word exit out of there. It's like, what can you use better than exit? Because it's not about an exit. It is an exit from, say, day to day, but it's to give options at the end of the day, right? How are you growing, your business? What are you preparing? What are you planning? with Cultivate, it was
I think also too, he was kind of looking at me like, "What did you get me into?"
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's that wow curve, right? Where he's
Yes.
like, wait a second.
Yeah, like-
You had me excited, and now I got all this stuff. And these
Yes.
people are critiquing me.
Yes.
Even though you might be an even keel guy, I could tell you, as somebody that's like, I would say classically trained through value acceleration, even when I have an advisor come into my own business and I know that I should be open, I got the health report back from Cultivate myself, and I said, this is BS. These are my own customers. These are my own CEPAs evaluating my own business. I was like, there's no way in that category is that way. And then I had a conversation with the guys, and I'm like, to your point, take a deep breath, and you're like, these people are trying to actually help me. But yeah. Go ahead.
I think though, Josh, correct me if I'm wrong, but when we started, when we were going through the acquisition though, like if we didn't have Cultivate, I don't know if we would have closed that as successfully as we did. They gave us the courage, they gave us the confidence, and they really helped us navigate that effectively. So I think that was really like one of those turning points.
Yeah.
To be like, wow, like if I didn't have Cultivate, I don't know where I would have been at that point.
Yeah, I think that's unique for you guys, right? Like to be growing in part through acquisition. That's also a very unique experience for the next show that we'll do together, right? Because that's something that we acquired EPI, but we haven't grown our business through acquiring other shops per se around the region. I want to go back to Josh though, because I'm trying to capture a couple things for either the business owners or even the advisors that are here in kind of a coaching and teaching moment. There's a couple of things where you said, there was a time over the 3 to 6 months where you were like, I'm wasting money. This is overwhelming, or I got other stuff I could be doing. But you said you had a pause point and you reread the book. Is that some of the advice that you would give to other owners feeling perhaps the same way right now? Like what got you through to say, okay, Michelle, let's get the advisors together. Let's keep moving along.
100%. I mean, the book is a great book, by the way. But just to outline, in a very simplistic form of really what the infrastructure is and what the point is, and how that relates to business. I began to realize that there was a lot of that our family was doing already.
Yeah, sure.
But without really truly identifying it and clearly setting goals.
Yeah.
So it's, and then of course I've got my accountability partner, that is, what's the deadline? When are we going to get this done?
Right? There's now deadlines and framework. There's a framework.
Yeah. I'm like, accountability. I'm like, what is that? Like, it's.
So Josh, you hit on something that I teach at CEPA. And it was really cool for me to hear you just say it, because I do believe that as business owners, you guys are actually doing this stuff every single day. You just don't call it exit strategy. You call it running a business.
100%.
And what I think somebody like Michelle and your other advisors that you have brought in help you do is make it more intentional and deliberate with accountability. Is that fair to say, Michelle? Right?
Perfectly said.
And so now you're taking these things that you're kind of just doing, which have made you, again, wildly successful over 100 plus years. And now you're going to say, that's called value acceleration methodology. That's called exit strategy. The other thing that I want the audience to pick up on is how Josh described exit. He didn't say he was exiting his business. I wrote down a few words. He said that it's about options, having options. I think that we should all have options, because there's also the 5 Ds, right? There's stuff that could happen in your family business that you're not even thinking about right now. But if you have options, you can pivot. You also talked a little bit about decentralization, like what does life look like in and out of the business? So you might exit a little bit of your role, but still be the owner of the business. And those are, I think, some of the big things that stood out to me in that exit conversation. So a couple of last questions as we're kind of hitting top of hour. How have you, both from advisor to Josh and wife to Josh, how have you seen him change in the last year or so in terms of being an owner?
I think I definitely seen a huge involvement. For him, it's the realization that, having control and being in control of the business can take on a lot of different forms. It's, sometimes the business runs better when, he's a couple steps back from it and decentralizing himself. And his job is really to mold his people to take the business to the next level, not necessarily do their jobs for them.
Yeah.
Right. As a leader, he's there to really, guide from the front And that's super important to getting, to growing Fuller Collision Group and to continuing to acquire and build. So that's been probably the biggest change, just being comfortable with that decentralization, because it's not easy.
It's not easy at all.
When you are ingratiated in that business every day, that baby, that is your baby, right? And so to take a couple steps back from that and just look at running it in a different fashion, I'd say that's been the biggest evolvement, but it's been nice to see.
Yeah, it's got to be pretty cool. So what about you, Josh? Like, what has changed for you? Similar type things?
Very similar. I mean, to your point, like, when was the last time you were in your office and you see a bunch of people walk out and they're going to lunch and they're like, well, what about me? How come,
right.
How come I'm not invited to these lunches anymore?
Yeah.
And
So true.
that really is to the point where I was fortunate not only to be kind of working with Michelle, but our office manager, literally a year ago, just took my office, and she's like, "This is my office now. You need to leave."
Yeah.
And so it's really kind of forced me, like, outside, on the business. People say, "Well, are you working in the business or working on the business?" It's everything is working, on the business, but it's again taking that and looking at a different light and learning to be, comfortable while uncomfortable.
While uncomfortable. That's what me and my dad talk about that quite a bit too. It's like you just have to. I know it's really like a kind of a buzz phrase to say, but I think one of the key catalysts to like opening up the value acceleration methodology for an owner is just to say, I'm just going to be uncomfortable here. Like, it is very uncomfortable. And the people behind the studio glass here are the people that did that to me, Josh. Sam and Paige took their people out to lunch on the first day of the new people starting, and I'm usually the one that goes. Hell, I started let's have this extended 3-hour lunch for the new people, and I watched this like mass exodus of people leaving my office, and I'm like, wait, where are they all going? Like, it's the middle of a friggin' workday. And then I realized in that moment, we just had 3 people start, so the manager and the director are taking their folks out for this 2 or 3 hour traditional culture kind of lunch that we have, and I'm not invited. And although it was just this little thing, and they probably didn't even realize, it was like wildly uncomfortable and a little irritating for me, because I'm like, dude, what the hell? But so what I'd like to do is actually invite you guys back to the show in like a year to see this value acceleration journey. It's a really cool opportunity, I think, to also come together to teach the audience to see how it actually unfolds, because it seems like you guys are fairly open to the discussion. So I appreciate you guys coming in. We're at the top of the hour, so we'll have to have you in for another show. So thanks for hanging out. And good luck on the value acceleration journey. You're in really good hands. So.
Yeah, absolutely. Outstanding. Thanks so much for having us. It was a blast.
Cool. Thank you, Scott. This is fun.
All right, guys. The next show is February 5th. So subscribe, listen, and leave a review on all of your podcast platforms. We'll see you next time. Thanks.